Welcome into this episode of Coach's Corner. Jordan Woodruff with you, and joined today by the head wrestling coach of the Wildcats, Justin Roland. He's about to kind of maybe start focusing a little bit on football as well, but we need to celebrate the accomplishments that happened in wrestling last week at the state tournament. Coach, good to have you along. And first off, what a heck of a state tournament just overall.
It was good. I think we felt like we were probably in that 5 to 10 range as far as placing, and ended up 6 and beat a lot of teams that I think people had picked above us. So it was really good.
You did it with just 6 qualifiers too. I mean, that's the thing is there's a lot of schools maybe had more qualifiers, but with 6, you place in 6th place. I mean, that is an accomplishment, just taking 6 and getting that high.
Absolutely. I mean, you come out of that East Regional and you know your kids are tough, and you know they'll have a chance to medal. And when you get finalists and people like that, you'll finish pretty high.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about some of those performances. I mean, we got to start it with Chris Kaiser. He gets beaten in the regional by Barrett Jordan, the number 2 in the weight class in the country at 113.
Absolutely.
He comes back and wrestles in what is probably one of the best bouts of the whole tournament, and he ends up winning his 2nd straight gold medal. So what a performance from Chris Kaiser.
Absolutely. That kid, Barrett, has beat a lot of good guys, and beat a lot of good guys out in Ohio at Ironman. And when we wrestled him last week in regionals, I think the thing was it reassured some of the stuff we were doing right. Like, we knew we could wrestle with him. We knew we could beat him. And all I told Chris all week is score 1 more point than him. Don't change anything. We took his best move, which was that near our far leg dump, and our underhook was better than his. So we wrestled really tough, and Chris is one of those kids that he's starting to venture into that rare air type of place, one of the best to do it at Ponca for sure.
Well, and that's the thing too. When you look at Chris, I talked to him about what colleges are looking at you, and he mentioned a few, but there wasn't the big names. A win like that against Barrett Jordan, I mean, I would imagine now Chris gets on the radar of a lot more schools as far as if he wants to continue his wrestling career, which it sounds like he does.
Right, and it's kind of crazy, because he was in the top 10 last year at 106 and nationally ranked again this year. Only lost 1 match this year, but they're coming. I know for sure Navy, Stanford, Little Rock, Appalachian State, OU reached out to him Sunday morning, so it's West Point. Actually, I talked to West Point yesterday. It's starting to pick up, and I think for him, it's going to be that decision of, are you trying to set up to win a national title, a world title, or are you trying to set yourself up for the future? What are your biggest goals? And you take that route.
Yeah, he's one heck of a wrestler, no doubt. And you got some other ones there. Now, we'll go through the list of those state qualifiers. I mean, Cameron Kaiser, who finished 3rd last year, wasn't able to get it this year, but man, that 120 weight class was tough.
It was tough. It's funny because you come out and you wrestle a former teammate, kid you grew up with your whole life, and the kid ended up making the finals, Deb Miller at Westmore, but Cameron wrestled really tough. It was a buzzsaw weight all year. I think there was 2 state champions in there and 6 placers, so might have been the deepest weight in the tournament, but Cam wrestled tough. He wrestled tough all year, just there at the end, needing those crucial takedowns, crucial points. We didn't get them, but it should springboard him into a good summer and a good senior year.
Move up to Preston Lee. All the weight classes were tough, but Preston, I thought, had a good showing. Expanded each year. He seemed like he got a little better. Tough weight class, but he's able to go in there and really compete well. And he's a kid that's going to be college wrestling coming up next year, I guess, at Cali, right?
Absolutely. He signed with Justice Circle in Cali County yesterday, which, Justice spent some time in our room and knows those boys pretty well. But really proud of Preston. It's people don't understand how hard it is to win a medal in 6A wrestling, and they're only giving them to the top 4. And I want to say the 2 in the finals, one kid's the number 1 kid in the country, the other kid's going to OU, and then the kid that beat Preston in the console championship match, he's going to OSU. Mm-hmm. So it's just one of those times where it's really tough, but Preston worked well this year. He took care of his weight. He ended up going down to 32. He actually beat the kid that made the finals at 38. But great accomplishment and great year for Preston.
Yeah, and mentioned Riker was there. Rough one on the start for him. Once again, all these weight classes are tough. But then also you go to Gabe. Gabe able to improve every year. And once again, a really tough weight class. 215 Jersey Rob is one of the best to do it in the state ever.
Yeah.
And he's also one of the best in Oklahoma, going to be wrestling at Oklahoma State. Gabe didn't get a chance at the rematch with him, but Gabe did get that third place, which was very big for him.
It was, man. He was pretty heartbroken, getting beaten in the semis by Oscar, who's another kid, Fargo national champ, going to OU, tough kid. And we just come up short. We're 4-3. We end up taking the kid down with, I want to say, about a minute 30 left, and we made the decision to let him up, make it 4-3, try and take him down at the end, and just come up short. But, Gabe has absolutely solidified how good he is in high school wrestling. I think we were looking at his career record. He's 100 and something in like 12 or 17. Only lost 3 matches in the last 2 years. So, just a tough kid, and like I said, it didn't end where he wanted to, but we don't look at it as a failure.
No.
We look at it as a springboard, like I said, for Preston, a springboard into the future.
Yeah, no doubt. And there's nothing. I mean, just anybody that places, anybody that does anything, it's so hard in 6A wrestling, and you really get the magnitude of that if you're down there and you see and you look up all the rankings. I mean, there's somebody in 6A ranked in every single class. It is really unbelievable. And that being said, that makes for, if you just like you're coaching, but at the same time, you get to sit back and kind of enjoy a little bit too. And if you're sitting there and you're just like on championship night, once Chris gets done, you just get to sit back and watch everything else going on. I mean, if you love wrestling, that was a heck of a place to be.
It is funny because you look at those weights. 113 was a K County born kid. 120 the finals, K County born kid. 144, K County born kid. 157 K County born kid. 165, and every one of those matches was nationally ranked kid versus nationally ranked kid, D1 versus D1. I think at 144, Fargo national champ, number 8 ranked kid in the country, gets beat in the semifinals. So he ends up finishing third. That was the Clay Giddens from Bixby, and the kid that's going, his brother's at OSU right now, Voinovich match. I mean, if you are a wrestling fan, your eyes were glued to that match all night.
Yeah, 6A, and then not to mention, I mean, there were good things going on throughout on the 5A, 4A, and 3A mat as well. And, of course, we got a lot of 3A schools in our area and a lot of those kids that we see there. So, I mean, you got 5 mats when you add in the girls, you're watching all those. I mean, like I said, my eyes, just because those nationally ranked, was glued to 6A. But I did venture away, and there's some really good matches on those other mats, too.
Yeah, absolutely. And first and foremost, shout out to Addison Ivers. Oh, my goodness, just a tremendous performance. I'm sure it was fun for her being in that venue, but getting our first girl placer ever is awesome. And I think it's just more to come in the future. And then, shout out to Blackwell. They were a really, really good dual team all year, and now they're a really, really good tournament team.
And they won their first since 2012.
Right, and the most points they've ever scored. And, Connor and those boys over there do a great job. They got a great program. And I always say this, one of the hardest things for Ponca and wrestling is you got great traditions all around it. You got Blackwell's a heck of a club. Newkirk had a placer in Brady Ofield that comes and works out with us some. So
you're not too far away from Perry.
No, Perry's right down the road.
And you start looking, it's like 3A schools, but we wrestle a lot of those.
Yeah.
And they're always competitive. Sometimes we'll beat you and stuff.
Yeah.
And people will look at it, 6A losing to a 3A, and it's like, no, those 3A schools, there's been times where Perry's been good enough that they could beat almost everybody in 6A, for instance.
They're for sure. It's one of the cool things about wrestling is there is some depth differences as the classes go, but if you were really good at wrestling, it doesn't matter what class you're in. So, and you have the opportunity to get in tournaments with those teams. those teams get to test themselves and we get to test ours.
Yeah, and just the champions at state, you had 3A, as we mentioned, was Blackwell, 4A Carl Albert. Didn't see with Collinsville and all them in there for once, which was a little unusual, but that was the really big race you thought going into it.
Yeah.
And then you turn up to 5A, and you know who's or 4A's Tuttle, my bad.
Yeah.
5A was Carl Albert.
Yeah.
You know, Tuttle's just a runaway with their 15th straight now.
Yeah.
And then 6A was the one everybody was watching. That's the reason you're even more glued to the mat, because Stillwater and Edmond North were in this battle, and it came down to the very last match where their heavyweight needed to get a pin to win it and couldn't get it done. So, I mean, it was good.
It was really good. You know, that Rich kid from Owasso had been the best heavyweight in the state all year, and we see him a lot. So we got to see him. And the young man from Edmond North, just guts and glory, you know. But that in wrestling, you can never count anybody out, especially at a big tournament like that. But, you know, kudos to Stillwater and Edmond North. I mean, it was a heck of a race, and it ended up Stillwater winning.
And the most dramatic of the night was actually the girls. And I'm going to get in two parts of that. Union wins getting a fall at 2:15. And Edmond North girl, if she just wins the match, they're going to be the girls' champions this year. And they end up losing by fall, so Union takes it. And Union's out there celebrating with the girl that won it, that wasn't even their teammate, because they helped them win a state championship. And I was joking on air that that's the fun thing about wrestling, you know, because not only are you watching your team, if you're in a close race, you're watching everybody else as well, and you're watching that other team and hoping they don't have success. So it makes really strange bedfellows, I guess you would say.
I mean, you know, and of course nobody likes Stillwater in 6A this year, so every time they went down, people cheered. But it was exactly that, you know. If Edmond North and Stillwater weren't meeting up, you know, Edmond North was hoping that the kid would beat Stillwater, and Stillwater was hoping the kid would beat Edmond North. And it's funny, the girls' division, I know Gerald Harrison, I know Charles Jones. You know, Charles Jones, the head coach at Edmond North girls, and Gerald's at Union, and they're great competitors. And it makes it a lot more intriguing when it comes down to the last day. So that was awesome.
Yeah, and on the girls' side, it was fun to watch that. But the thing that stood out to me was when Addison, they were on the mat right in front of where we were set up doing the radio broadcast. I saw you over there, and I mean, it was like your own. You were in the stance on the knees, and you were getting after it when Addison was in that third place match.
It's fun, you know, you're around those kids all the time, and you get close with them, and you know how hard it is, and you know it's tough, and you know the work she's put into it, and the work Coach K's put into her, and it was just fun to watch, and that's what you do. You go support. Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit now, kind of towards the end here. Where do you go from what you're able to accomplish this year? I know you'll have a lot of guys that'll be wrestling some freestyle and such this summer. But what do you expect now going into next year? You're hoping you can stay healthy, but you got some younger guys that you're hoping to kind of fill in these seniors that are leaving.
Absolutely. You know, we got, I want to say, 4 or 5 that freshmen to be that should have an opportunity to make the club, and then get them big. You know, try and get Jimmy and Chris and Cameron, Gavin Weir's in there. You know, Ethan Papan's in there. There's a bunch of kids kind of clustered in there that we need to get bigger, and then go to work with those upper weights. That'll be different for sure. Not having a Gabe or somebody like that in there to push those kids, and then, you know, Preston Riker scored a lot of points, replacing them. But it should be fun, and the good part is you get Chris and those guys for another year. That's a really good class that does it right. And so, you know, heck, it's funny, Chris is going to the ROTC tomorrow to start freestyle, you know, so it never stops, and we'll get a ton of kids in the freestyle room and keep working.
Yeah, and not only do you got the wrestling you'll keep your eye on, you got football now you turn your attention to, because we're going to have some spring football coming up.
It comes quick, you know, and it's one of those deals where I think the football thing, Coach Harmon and them do a good job of getting that set up, and then I get to come in and do my thing and kind of get out of there. So it's all coming fast.
Yeah, I was going to say you're probably already getting your plan together. Haven't really dived into it yet, but I'm sure you guys are talking about, hey, we got to get this going, because you had a lot of success on the football gridiron, and once you get that success, you start expecting it every year.
Absolutely. He does a good job of, you know, when I'm in wrestling, he lets me go to wrestling, but we get to communicate and kind of know where we want to be.
All right, well, Great job down there at State. So proud of all these kids. Looking forward to what the next years can hold. Also looking forward to football coming up this spring and seeing you guys get better out there. Hey, you're a busy man, but I know you wouldn't have it any other way.
No, absolutely not. I appreciate you having me.
That's Coach Justin Roland. So appreciate you guys watching once again. Another episode of Coach's Corner in the books. Jordan Woodruff saying until next time, go Cats.